what camera? What's the main camera? That one. Yeah, I don't care. As any grown person who's getting broken down from some comments of some strangers, come on, man, you gotta be prepared to lose it. You're remembered better as the person who dared to be great, to dare is to do. And then if you lose, trying to play it safe, it's always worse.
Yeah. Charlotte Daly here with MailSport Boxing. I'm joined by Viddal Riley in the gym. Thank you so much for inviting us to your gym. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for coming down to where it all happens.
Exactly, where the magic happens, I think you said earlier.
yeah, it's painful magic, but it's magic nevertheless.
And, you know, you're doing so well at the moment. You've won the English title. You're on to bigger and better things, constantly pushing. But about 9 years ago, you decided to walk away from boxing.
Yeah.
You know, you fell out of love with the sport. Why was that? What was the reason that you did decide to walk away for a while?
I just think I started too young. You know, I think I started at an age where the rewards weren't life-changing. So as much as I was winning the nationals every year, a part of the England team, it's all very prestigious things and credentials that I look back on with great pride. But at the time, I was like, it's not changing anything for me. Do you know what I mean? I can go and maybe do something where I see change now. You know, I just got bored of hearing this sets you up well for down the line, you know, which is obviously wise words and that were coming from wise people, but part of being a kid is that instant gratification and just, wanting to feel all these titles that I've won. And I just thought, let me try something else. Let me just do something else. And then I think when I realized maybe I should get back into it was probably the perfect time, because when it was a few years into resuming is that stage where you do see a reward and you do see a difference. So I think, that's why I come back.
And before we talk about your comeback to the sport, do you think then there's a lot of pressure on kids' shoulders kind of growing up? Because a lot of people get into it at the age you're talking about, and being an athlete, I've said it before, is a 24-hour job. You know, you have to sleep right, eat right, recover, do all of the right things. That's a lot to manage without those rewards that you're talking about. Do you think it's the mental side of it more than the physical side?
I definitely think it's the mental side. Physically, I mean, you're a kid, you're young, you haven't got any issues, you know what I mean? You can fly off a building if you want and recover. But mentally, it's just the discipline and the focus that is required when you are first exposed to so many distractions. I think I started at 6 years old, which is just obviously very young, but you don't have any freedom as such. You're more directed and told where you're gonna be, and you develop into your teenage years when you have your own friendship groups and they have interests and you want to be a part of what they're doing, and then whatever you've committed to becomes a nuisance. Try to think of a better word, but I'm just gonna go with it. It becomes a nuisance because you're like, right, I can't go here because I got training. Can't do this. Why? Because I got to run. And when you're not getting those, if the rewards are not satisfying you, it's very hard to make those sacrifices.
Yeah. You say there, and talking about them missing out on things and friendship groups, and obviously sometimes your friends, when they're not in that situation, don't understand it. They're like, well, why can't you come out the night before you're going to camp or you're doing something like that? Do you think it's quite a lonely place to be in at that point?
I think so. I think it also depends on the sport that you're doing. Me growing up being a boxer, it wasn't the most popular sport. I don't think it was even spoken about as much amongst young ages as it's spoken about now. There's significant reasons for that, but at the time, boxing was like, this guy's a boxer, like, great. I think if I played for like Tottenham, then I think people would be more supportive and see the vision. So it would be easier, and I think you'd get more credit for it. You'd get more props because I played for Tottenham under whatever 16s or whatever. But being a boxer, it was quite lonely for me. I think it can be lonely for any athlete who's not in a major sport or that sport that grabs the youth's attention to associate with being cool, you know.
You spoke a moment ago about the fact that you started when you were 6 years old. You know, your whole life was training and competing.
Yeah.
What was that transition like then, going from, you know, you won, I think it was 8 national titles, silver, European, you know, went to the Youth Olympics, stuff like that. What was the transition like from being effectively a full-time athlete to then not boxing anymore? What did you do with your time, and how did you kind of spend your time not training?
I went straight into working full time. So, you know, my mum was just like, well, you got to do something. If you're not going to go uni and you're not fully focused on boxing, then you need to get a job. You need to do something. So I was like, cool.
What did you pick?
Retail, you know, the easiest one to get into most of the time. But I worked in retail, and I worked in Nightown in Oxford Street, Oxford Circus, so, and JD Sports, and just I had an interest for trainers and sport. So I thought if I'm gonna do any job, I have to have at least some sort of further care for it, and I ended up meeting a lot of like lifelong friends through those jobs, and it was a big blessing. It just led me to so many things, and I also got my PT qualification as well, like during that time. So I'm always someone who's gonna do something, like even if I'm not boxing. I can't just be alive. Like,
can't just sit still.
Yeah, I can't just wake up and chill. I'll find something to do. So I did make like some constructive, you know, avenues during that time, and I also developed my love for music more during that time as well, because I was giving that more energy. So yeah, I kept busy, but I don't know, man. Life just drags me back into this, boxing thing. Yeah,
can't get away from it.
Can't get away from it.
Like you said, you did come back to boxing. Now, you always wanted, or one of your goals was the Olympics at one point. Yeah. Was that the turning point for you to go back in when you were watching Lawrence Daly at the Olympic Games? I know it sounds so bad. It sounds so bad, but it is the God's honest truth. I remember I was working, I was doing alright, I was fine, and then I was just watching the Olympics, and I wanted to check who's there in my weight, because I know that's the weight I would be. And then when I saw Lawrence competing, I thought I could have definitely have made the Olympics, because Lawrence is a lot less experienced than me at this time. You know, he got into the sport recently, worked really hard, inspired by AJ at the 2012 Olympics, then was at the 2016 Olympics. So I just thought, I know I'm better than you. I've been doing it a lot longer than you. But with some focus and dedication, you're at the Olympics. So if I put some focus and dedication in, after all the years I already have on you by starting so young, I can become something. I surely can do something. And that's why I was motivated after watching that to get back in the gym and not waste all those years of investment when he's shown how much you could do in just 4. Did it frustrate you though, watching him there? Were you kind of annoyed at yourself for walking away at that point?
I was annoyed at myself, because I believe if I stayed on it, it wouldn't have allowed the avenue for, you know, him to go, because I should have been there, and I would have been working at being there for a lot longer space of time. But yeah, it was frustrating, and I just thought, I'm going to waste this. If I don't go back now, I'm going to waste it. And I think I went back just at the right time. Just at the right time, yeah.
Well, before we talk about your career as a whole, you are quite close with JJ KSI, also known as. How did that relationship come about? And you ended up training him. How did that all happen?
So I trained a lot of his friends. They all lived in the same place, and the word just spread around the building. Hey, I got a PT. I've seen this improvement. I train with him every day. But it didn't mean anything to him because he already had a PT. My purpose came in when he was going to have a boxing match against Joe Willer. And that was announced in 2017 to take place at the beginning of 2018. So only when he needed my knowledge for boxing was when he was like, oh, I'll check out what you guys are saying. And he just came down to the gym. We done 1 session, 2 sessions, 3 sessions. The fight got confirmed. We just had a training camp literally building up to February. And yeah, he performed really well. none of us realized at the time what it would develop into. So sometimes the questions that people ask me about it are a bit like ahead of time. With it's the questions with hindsight. Like at that time, there's no whole crossover boxing world. It was a one-off event. So I didn't want to be a boxing coach. I just believed I was training this person for a one-off event. I'll give him everything until that point, and then I'll move on, just go back to doing what I was doing.
What were your assumptions of him, though, when you first kind of met him and heard that he was coming into the gym to try and box?
He was a lot calmer than I expected. I think the personality that he has on his channel and with the people is very different to the person that you know personally. And I was just shocked, really. I was just shocked at how chill he really was. He listens extremely well. When he puts his mind to something, like, he really dives in and dedicates, and that's why he's had all the success that he's had. But yeah, we gelled well from the jump. It was kind of like he was my big brother in situations, and then when it came to boxing and how to navigate him in that room, I was like his big brother. So we had a good relationship. You know, we exchanged each other's knowledges to get where we are now.
Yeah, and he's obviously the founder of this whole crossover Misfits thing. Yeah. What is your opinion on Misfits as a whole?
I think they should continue to do it. I think in a world where there's so many stimulants now, and you need to grasp the next gen somehow, I think it's something that should continue. You know, I just think it's just a different time.
Yeah.
You know, you could maybe in the 50s, someone would be a professional boxer and a postman, and someone might work in construction and be a boxer as well, and no one would ever criticize anybody for it. These guys in this day and age with the technology that's available, they have social careers and they box. So I just think it's a matter of time in the world. The job has changed, but boxers are known to have a day job and fight too.
Yeah.
So that's their day job, and they fight too. But they can't start trying to call, you know, the elites of the game out, because there's a skill lapse there, and I'm not a bully personally. That's why I don't dabble in it. But some people will bully you, take the money, and I don't blame them the same way, but I just resist it.
Do you think that's where the problem is then, when the line blurs between professional traditional boxing and crossover, that if you are a traditional boxer you should fight in the pro ranks, and if you're an influencer you should stay to influencer boxing? Yeah,
you know, it's like, I don't know, it's just the time we live in. The word should is nice, you know, it's an honourable word, we should, but will we is the true thing. And I don't know, for me, I always try and think of things outside of myself as much as I can. You know, it's easy. It's for me to say I don't want to go into crossover boxing because I believe I'm going to be a world champion and I'm going to make millions anyway. That's my perspective. But for someone who's not got the ability that I have, who was in the traditional world, knew always that they weren't going to reach the top, and then there's been an alternative created with more revenue and easier opponents, it is pretty much a no-brainer, right? Just to say I'm gonna go and get that money and I still get to be a boxer. And more people actually care about me boxing now than when they did when I said I wanted to be world champion. I'm just dedicated to a goal because it's just been a lifelong thing, and I'd hate for something that entered my life so late to steer me so off track from what I always believed I'd be since a kid.
I think what you said there about the fact that there's big paydays in this influencer crossover, you know, we've seen Tommy Fury do it. He said that he's going to keep doing crossover boxing at the moment because the money is there. Do you think it's a shame that somebody like him has now dabbled in the crossover world and he hasn't come back? Do you think that set him off track?
I don't think it's a shame for him personally. I think it was brilliant. I think it was the best thing that Tommy could do. For me, it would throw me off track, but I don't think, well, I know, looking at the professional rankings in the division, not many of them he's gonna do well against or beat, in my opinion. I always say it in a logical way that if I'm the English champion, which is like the first recognizable title, if I'm that level, then he can't get past me, he won't get past the above. So you can make money. You can, like he said, more people care. It's pay-per-view, global events. You can build so many things off being involved in them. Do it.
Yeah.
So I think that's not a shame for him to leave traditional. I think it's a blessing.
And so many people would love to see you in it. I mean, I think you've got a mass following of like 2.5 million or something like that, which is just crazy.
Okay,
how did you even build that up to that point?
You know, I'm so honest as well. Like, I'm not gonna say because I uploaded at the right times and all these things. The truth is, people wanted an insight into what JJ was doing. You know, I became another platform to find out the behind the scenes, to find out the exclusives. And at the time when he was boxing and I was coaching him, that was very intriguing. If anyone's gonna be with him, it'll be Viddal. So let's follow what he's doing and let's just get involved, and we might get to see something that we won't see anywhere else. And that's how a large mass of the following initially spiked. You know, it's been since not coaching him where I felt who's stayed pretty much to see what I am doing.
The true fans,
yeah. not just for the update on him. And I think that's when it really kicked in for me, treating socials as a job. A lot of it was just being in the right place at the right time. And since I think 2020, it's been a mission of what are we going to upload, what are we going to do, how are we going to keep the eyes that JJ allowed me to have to stay for what I'm doing now. And it's just consistency, and I think releasing the content you can always produce. I went through a phase of trying to make content replicating the stars around me, the YouTube stars around me, and how hyper they can get, and I'm just not that person. So I went through that phase and I thought, if this is what it takes to keep a YouTube channel, I'm quitting.
I'm out.
I'm not doing it because I'm not built this way.
But it's the authenticity that people come to you for. That's what they want to see.
And I had to find the gem in that, and I had to find that was why people are interested, is because of the authenticity, not because of a character. And that allowed me to say, right, I can keep this socials going, and because all I have to do is be myself.
And even being a professional boxer, you open yourself up to kind of scrutiny and comments and social media chat, but giving that extra insight into your life and into your personality, you kind of open that door even more. How do you cope with the comments you get? I mean, I know most of them, to be honest, are quite positive, but what about those negative comments?
I don't know what's the main camera, that one. Yeah, I don't care. That's the best thing. I'm not even just saying that. In the beginning, it's new. You know, you're used to posting a picture, you get 6 comments, and it's your 6 of your friends, 100% positive ratio. You know, and then when it becomes 500 comments, then you're gonna get 80 that are negative. But I mean, there's still 420 that's positive. And what the negative comments are, most of them are not in context because they're not aware of anything, and they're just talking and having the freedom of rights to speak. So I think it's really down to you how much you let that get into your mind, and especially as someone who's developing through like your teenage years and whatnot, try and adopt that mentality sooner rather than later, because that's when we're most like easily influenced. But as any grown person who's getting broken down from some comments of some strangers, come on, man. Come on.
And you yourself, do you feel a responsibility with that following to kind of be a role model and put positive stuff out there?
Yeah, I do. I think it just comes with the job. It comes with the platform. I don't act as a role model, like in a way where, like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I'm a human. I want people. My main thing as a role model is to show everyone that I do normal things. I'm a normal person. Do you know what I mean? I think that's my main goal as a role model. I don't want to create anything that people like can't do. You know, I don't want you to admire what I'm doing. I want you to be like, yeah, it's cool, he's doing it, and I could do it if I wanted to as well. You know what I mean? I want anyone that follows me to feel that way. I don't want them to feel like it's impossible and only Viddal can achieve it. When you try it, you might realize this guy's, he's good at what he does. It's hard to it's hard to achieve, but at least, don't not try it. I want you to feel like you can try. I don't want anything to seem out of reach.
Yeah, inspiring the next generation.
That sounds good.
There you go. So in terms of your career now, you got the opportunity to turn pro with Mayweather Promotions. They were impressed with your sparring. How did that come about? You were away filming content, right, when you were sparring? I was away just shadowing JJ. He paid for the flight for me, and you know, still that's something that changed my life. So it's just, and I've never had anyone pay for anything for me at that scale. You know, he decided to book a business flight, return flight to Vegas, which is, to me, I'm like, listen, man, I can't, I'm not involved. But he done it, and I made the most of it. I felt like the only thing I could do to justify someone putting themselves out like that for me is to go there and represent well. And he's going in the gym saying, this is my trainer, and he's the one that's taught me, and I can't go in there and get beat up because I might be out the job. So I decided to, you know, put my best boots on, and had a few good sparring sessions. I had a sparring session with Andrew Tabiti, who was at the top cruiserweight at the time in the US, and I done well. It was only 3 rounds, but I showed enough where they said, work with us. Let's see if we can build something out of you. And I thought, do I sign with Mayweather Promotions, move to Vegas as a 21-year-old, or do I keep striving for the Olympics? And I thought, I'm moving to the strip. Vegas sounds good.
I'm moving to the strip. I said, I'm moving to the strip. We're gonna make this work in the desert, in the sun, and just have a brand new experience. And I don't regret doing it. Like, it was, at that time, it was just like, do it.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't happen. You know, no one's just getting calls, hey, I'm one of the best boxers ever. Do you want to sign with me? No, I'm good, bro. Thanks. Like, I'm not doing that. So I took the opportunity, and it was good. You
relocated over there for, I think it was 2 years, and then moved back to London. Why did you move back? Was something missing out there?
Yeah, a lot was missing. Family being one of the main things, you know, just that freedom of knowing where you are and knowing where you can go, spend your spare time, cousins down the road, you know, just a lot of things that I took for granted were now gone. And what made it even more difficult was it was during the pandemic, so family couldn't even travel to see you. So I just felt like I'm stuck here. And from a boxing side of things, I just needed my dad to coach me again. I didn't think so, which is why I went. I thought, okay, my dad's taught me enough that someone else can build off this and they'll get through to me. But when I was there, I realized I can't. No one gets through to me how he gets through to me. He coaches me in a way where it does set into my mind. And I think without that, I wouldn't be the same fighter, and I could feel myself becoming worse as a fighter. So I had to move back, dropped everything, spent a ton of money, inconvenienced a lot of people, and moved back.
You said there about your relationship with your dad. What is it that makes that relationship so special? How can he get through to you in a way that no one else can?
I think it's because he's my parent, you know. In the long and short of it, he's had to get through to me for multiple things in my life at different times. And boxing is just another section of that. But he's had to teach me everything, you know, whether it's even in the beginning, pee here or whatever. He's found a way to get through to me. Walk like this, like, you know, like simple requests, but simple lessons that is just a lesson like any other. Like, boxing is just lessons like any other. So the same way he learned how to get those things through to me, he said, all right, if I'm going to teach him boxing, it needs to be like this. This is how he learns. And, you know, that's it. That is
the
it.
Relationship between boxer and parent is a really interesting one. I mean, Joe Calzaghe, he had a relationship with his dad, and we've got the Eubanks now. it can be really positive or it can be really negative. I mean, we've seen Chris Eubank Sr. and Chris Eubank Jr. fall out because of his boxing career. How do you navigate that relationship between being family and what needs to be done in terms of your career?
I think the most important thing is realizing that we're both our own people, you know, especially from the parent side. It's harder to let the parent, you know, the harder for the parent to let go of that because they've always been the person guiding you. But I feel like my dad is that character where he's like, you're your own man, you're gonna do some of your own things. I'm just there to say maybe I wouldn't do that if I was you. And I think the conflict can come when that respect of this person is their own person isn't there, and that the line is blurred, and of taking them back to childhood, for example. So like me and my dad don't have that problem. We just communicate, we just talk, like literally we just talk on a level, and if he's not happy with something, he will say, I'm not happy with something, I'll say, we'll talk, and at the end of the day we're gonna make up, it's gonna be fine, because that's how it's supposed to be. And there's certain people in life I just never want to have a problem with, and even if I can see it going there, I'd rather just not say anything, because I just think it's pointless. We're better together than against each other. Yeah.
Do you think that's quite sad then, looking at the Eubank situation of, you know, Chris Eubank Sr. saying some choice words about his son, like getting to that point?
I feel like Chris Eubank Sr. is just very honest. I don't feel like he's against Chris. He might not say what Chris wants to hear, and maybe says it at the wrong time to the world, maybe, you know. But when I've heard any comments that Chris has made, Senior has made, I just think he's looking out for his son. He's just genuinely saying what he would say behind closed doors, but he's just doing it on camera. And I could see how that could annoy Chris, and especially when he's trying to push something himself, and to have your dad kind of bringing another light on it. Like, I get the frustration, but I'm pretty sure that when it's all said and done, you know, the love is there, and when it comes to it, they'll be there for each other.
I'm sure that's true as well. Now, you grew up in Tottenham, you know, born in Hackney, grew up in Tottenham. What was that like?
Active is a good word. I think a lot of character building, strong personalities, you know, difficult environment. So people who are struggling, people who are desperate, you know, it creates a tough environment. But my family, my mum, my dad, like, they done a very good job of being those strict parents in that environment, because it's so easy to just get let off the leash and end up doing what you want. And they were very good at saying, no, you're not going to do what you want, you're going to do this. You're not going to do this, you're going to do that. And, you know, even when I got to my later teenage years, they couldn't. It gets to a point where they can't really control you as much. And I was getting in bits of trouble there. And it made me realize, like, why they were like that. Because when they were being like that, I believed they're just being extra. It's just unnecessary. But then when that stopped, I was getting in all sorts. So I thought, yeah, maybe they're right, you know. But it was a difficult environment to grow up in, but a very close community. And there's a lot of loyalty within the community. Yeah, when you're from there, you feel that home feeling, and every time I go back there, I still feel it. So, yeah, growing up in Tottenham was a good experience, and my early years in Hackney too, because a lot of my family still lived there.
And you have become a Tottenham fan, obviously. We have to talk about that.
Come on, you Spurs. That's what we're talking about. My cameraman, good friend, Roms, is an Arsenal fan. A lot of the people that I know a lot of the people, it's true, a lot of the close people to me are Arsenal fans. But I understand why, so I let them off.
But best start to the season since I think it's like 1961 or something like that. Talk to me about your feelings.
I mean,
it's about
longevity. That's it. I don't get my hopes up. Anything that happens before Christmas is just like happy times, great times. It's February when I start worrying. Yeah, a couple more injuries pop up, other tournaments as well are being played. Things start going a bit left. It depends on the depth of your team. You know, it's always the depth of the team for me. we look at City as like, if he's injured, it's cool, we'll bring him in. Like, if he's it's cool.
Got another starting 11
we've
on the
got another
bench.
starting 11 on the bench. Whereas when we lose certain players, I'm like, it's Conference League for us. You know what I mean? But hopefully everything is set well. Some transfers in January can happen that can see us through to the end of the season, and I'll be happy with us, obviously, to win the league, but to be comfortably in the top 4, not depending on the last game. If they lose, they draw, like literally they finish 3rd or something, I'll be happy with that. But the league,
And Ange Postecoglou, big confidence in him, big fan? Or?
I like his personality. I like how he's coming across to the media. He's obviously getting through to the team very well, because we're playing different football. We're playing confident football, attacking football, which is the complete opposite of what I expected when Harry Kane left. I can't lie. When he left, I thought, well, no goals for us. Every win will be 1-0 because the midfielder headed it in or something. But we've managed to adopt a brand of football that is attacking, still scoring goals. Goals are coming from different places. I think it's forced the team to play more as a team rather than relying on, one of the top strikers in the world. You have to find a way. So now I'm happy with Spurs so far.
Okay, back to boxing now. Obviously, you have won the English title. Talk to me about that. Do you feel like that has legitimised you now? Do you feel like you're on the right path after all of that?
100%. I think there's some great fighters have won the English title. The two main names you'd say is that David Haye and Tyson Fury. They both won that title early in their careers. The exact title that I have now is the exact title David Haye has had as he was a cruiserweight as well. So, I mean, it's just, I only like to deal in facts. I'm very platonic and I'm very fair. Like, if I win the English title, David Haye won the English title, it's a legitimate one, whether he won it or I won it. The rules shouldn't be bent or changed just because I've got subscribers and I make a few different entertaining videos. The credit shouldn't be taken away.
And now looking forward to, you've obviously called out Isaac and stuff like that. Is that, are you still pursuing that, pushing for
100%,
that? Yeah,
100%. It's just a very good fight. I'm in the game to be challenged. I'm not a bully. I'm not in it for the mid-level or the low level. I'm in there to try and max it out. And Isaac is the level up. He's the step up. I'm English champion. He's British champion. He's only lost 2 people that have gone on to be world champions. And I've mixed it in there with the people he's lost to, like whether it's sparring or in the amateurs or whatever. So I just feel like, this is like the realm I should be in. The names that are around there, I can fit in. Yeah. So let's make it happen. It's hard to make big fights happen these days without it being a crossover event or MMA guy versus a boxing guy. If we get the opportunity to have a British boxing classic and create a big fight within the traditional game to represent that, we can still make it happen. We should make it happen.
Well, I hope it does happen. And in terms of that, it's quite refreshing because sometimes, like you said, big fights don't happen and people try and navigate their career to protect that O.
Yeah.
What do you kind of make of that, and what's your mindset on the whole losing the O and whatnot?
You got to be prepared to lose it. You got to be game enough to put it on the line and take a risk. I mean, all risks should be calculated, but you should do it. I believe that because you're remembered better as the person who dared to be great, to dare is to do, rather than the person who tried to play it safe. And then if you lose trying to play it safe, it's always worse. Because we tried to even play it safe and it still failed. Like, it's not acceptable. But if you try something and you come up short and you come back, I think that's the respectable way to do things. And like me fighting Isaac, obviously I could lose to Isaac. Very aware of that. He's a good fighter and he's fought more experienced as a professional. But I won't. But it is a possibility, and I can see how it could happen, and I can see why people think that he could win and why he will win and all these things. I can really see it, but I just don't see it enough more than I can tackle this challenge.
That's what makes a great fight, though, right?
But that's what makes a great fight.
Exactly.
Because imagine I'm like, oh, I'm fighting so-and-so. You're like, oh, okay. And you know I'm going to win, and you ain't watching it, and you don't care, and you just watch the highlights. Like, I want you to be tuned in on the day. Like, I don't know this time. I actually don't know. I have to tune in now. And that's what creates a big fight.
Okay, so my final question for you then is, if we were to sit down in this spot in 5 years' time, what would you have achieved, and who were the people you would have wanted to tick off at that point?
Well, let's start with Isaac. In 5 years' time, I should say, remember when?
Waiting for that fight.
I think, I should be a world champion. Should be a world champion, all things being equal, and doing what I can do from my side and listening to the wise people around me. I should be a world champion. I should have defended the title a few times and had some big fights. I don't know against who. It might be like Jay Opataya at that time. It might be a super fight or something like that. I don't know. Bill Smith as well. He's a world champion now, so who knows? Like there's opportunities. Once I get into that world bracket, there's still a few nice fights there. And hopefully I would have been in some of them. Maybe rematches. Trilogy would be special. Just for when the journey's done, just say you've done as many things as possible. You know, you could say I've retired undefeated, which is great. Or you could say, you know what, that guy got me in the second one, but I got him in the first and third one, and we had one of the best trilogies ever. It only can be created through a defeat, through a draw, through an adverse event. So hopefully I've got a world of things to tell you. You won't be able to leave within an hour, I'll tell you that.
Lots to come from Viddal Riley then.
Hopefully, yeah.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you.